Hey everybody, my name is Lowell and welcome to the channel. So we have a reaction video. This is going to be the secret behind Red Lobster's Cheddar Bay Biscuits. Now, I've made these myself. Stacy sent me a box. I made them on a video. I'll link that video. They're delicious. Absolutely delicious. So let's jump in. Let's learn a little bit more about Cheddar Bay Biscuits. Let's have a look at this.
When Red Lobster first opened its doors in 1968, it promised a harbor for seafood lovers. So you'd think their most popular dish would be, well, seafood, if not specifically lobster. But as anyone who's ever sampled from their menu can tell you, the best thing on it is, by far, the Cheddar Bay Biscuits. Plenty of places offer you something to chew on while you peruse the menu, like dinner rolls or chips and salsa. But people will travel to Red Lobster just to take a dip in Cheddar Bay. So how did this...
It's funny. We don't get anything to chew on while we're looking at the menu. We don't get nothing. Nothing over here.
Seafood chain transform into a cheesy bakery which also sells fish? Well, today we're going to take a look at why Red Lobster's Cheddar Bay Biscuits are so good.
They are delicious.
But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History Food channel. After that, please leave a comment and let us know what other casual dining restaurants you would like to hear about. Okay, and now let's pull up the anchor and set sail for the waters of Cheddar Bay. The very first Red Lobster opened up in Lakeland, Florida, and it specialized in what its very first menu described as fresh Florida seafood. But the menu also offered fish from places like Maine, Maryland, Alaska, Peru, Chile, and South Africa. And if that doesn't make your mouth water, the prices will. For example, a whole Florida lobster stuffed with hush puppies, along with a customer's choice of potato or coleslaw, cost a mere $2.35. Or how about a half-broiled Florida lobster and some sirloin steak with onion rings and a customer's choice of potato, coleslaw, or salad, and garlic bread for $2.95.
Oh my God. That sounds delicious. For $3. Mind you, it was the 60s.
And believe it or not, those are among the most expensive dishes on the whole menu. When it came to appetizers, the earliest Red Lobster menus offered things like a cup of New England clam chowder, a half dozen oysters on a half shell, shrimp cocktail, and crab meat cocktail. But there was nary a Cheddar Bay biscuit in sight because they hadn't actually been invented yet. In case you've never actually had one, the Cheddar Bay biscuit is a cheese biscuit with a garlic and herb butter topping. And they were invented in the late 1980s by a culinary genius named Julius Cheddar Bay, who named them after himself. Now,
That's why they're named Cheddar Bay Biscuits? No. Oh.
all right. There was no Julius Cheddar Bay.
Damn it. Come on.
In fact, there is no Cheddar Bay at all. The name was made up by Red Lobster, which realized cheese biscuits had nothing to do with seafood and wanted them to have a moniker that would, in their own words, reflect the seaside atmosphere of Red Lobster restaurants. They were actually created in the late 80s by Kurt Hankins, who was the head of Red Lobster's culinary development team at the time.
Hankins Biscuits? Yeah, they don't really have the same ring, does it? Oh, that's disappointing.
According to Hankins, Red Lobster had been working to hook their customers on hush puppies, but it wasn't really
What the
taking.
hell is a hush puppy? The only thing I know a hush puppy is a shoe. I don't know what a hush puppy is. Because I was thinking a lobster shoved up with hush puppies. That's a weird thing. But obviously they're not shoes, so...
Inspired by Texas toast and French bread, he set out to find a replacement, and after a little tinkering in the kitchen, he came up with what was essentially just a traditional biscuit recipe, but with garlic taking the place of sugar and a little cheese thrown in. The rest, as they say, is delicious cheese and garlic history. Given how successful they've become, it's hard to believe that at first, Red Lobster treated the Cheddar Bay Biscuits as something of an afterthought. According to the company, they quietly made their debut at a restaurant in the Atlanta area in 1988. At that point, they didn't really have a proper name, and they weren't even on the menu. They were just left on trays in the waiting area as a snack for customers who hadn't yet been seated. It's an unusual idea that might not have lasted very long, except the biscuits were a big hit. Customers liked them so much that employees couldn't refill the trays fast enough. Once that became apparent, the chain decided to move the biscuit service to the tables. And as for the people still waiting to be seated, well, they can bring their own biscuits. The biscuits...
It kind of reminds me of what's that? Sizzler. You know, Sizzler had that cheesy toast. That's the only thing I remember about Sizzler. Obviously, we don't have them here anymore. I don't think Sizzler even exists anymore. But it was a cheesy toast. You know, you go to Sizzler, yeah, it's good to get whatever, buffet, whatever. But the cheesy toast is something you remember. You know, that's something you take away. And I think there's recipes for it online, wherever. But that's what you remember. You know, it's little things like that that makes it stick in your mind. That's for sure.
Went national just a few months after their Atlanta debut and quickly began to develop an enthusiastic following. But they weren't Cheddar Bay Biscuits yet. When they made their first appearance on the menu in 1991, they were called Freshly Baked Hot Cheese Garlic Bread. As catchy as that name was, somewhere around 1996, Red Lobster decided to rechristen the biscuits in the waters of Cheddar Bay. The biscuits soared in popularity, becoming a favorite of both customers and employees, who are reported to have regularly stolen biscuits fresh out of the oven. Customers, meanwhile, got in the habit of asking for biscuit refills, which the company probably loved, but the employees hated. In the words of rapper Nicki Minaj, who worked at more than her fair share of Red Lobsters prior to blowing up in the music industry, "My pet peeve was when people asked for extra biscuits. Please do not ask for more biscuits, because I will slap you." She means it, too. Word about Red Lobster's delicious biscuits began to spread, and the chain started working to take advantage of their increasing popularity. For example, according to one Red Lobster employee, it became official corporate policy to provide every party with a biscuit for every person at the table, plus one extra. Why the one extra? Well, apparently the company believed it would serve as a conversation starter. They never said exactly what conversation the extra biscuit was meant to start, but you can assume it was a conversation about weapon selection for the ensuing fight over the last biscuit. Pitting family and friends against each other over a biscuit may strike some as needlessly antagonistic, but there's no arguing with the results. Come 2017, Red Lobster would be making over 1 million biscuits a day, and they were still the company's most popular menu item. They're so popular you don't even need to leave the house to get them. You can also order them for delivery, just like everything else on the menu. The catch is, if you have them delivered, they're not free. These days, a half dozen Cheddar Bay biscuits will cost you around $6.50 on delivery, and even a dozen will run you around $9. Just make sure to tell them there's 12 of you, so they bring you one extra. Now, at this point, many of you may be wondering something like, if Cheddar Bay biscuits are really that good, why give them away for free? After all, they don't hand you a free order of fries just for sitting down in a McDonald's. Although, come to think of it, maybe they should. That being said, getting free food just for showing up at a dining establishment is a pretty familiar practice. For example, it's not at all unusual to sit down at a diner or a fancy restaurant and find a basket of rolls waiting for you on your table.
We don't have that, which is a real shame. Real shame.
Similarly, Mexican restaurants frequently hand out free chips and salsa like they're going out of style. And even burger chains like Five Guys have been known to give customers free peanuts while they wait. The practice is especially perplexing when you realize that customers who fill up on freebies like bread or chips are then likely to order less food. You know, the kind they actually pay for. So why do restaurants do it? Well, on one hand, it's just an act of good old-fashioned hospitality, and customers typically love that. There's also tradition. Back in the day, most restaurants were located inside taverns, and they only really served one meal a day. That being the case, patrons were given bread to fill their stomachs, ensuring that there would be enough of that one meal to go around. The free bread also acts as something of a distraction. Customers who have nothing to do but sit there with their hunger pangs and wait for food can become impatient, sometimes even becoming a problem for the waitstaff. Give them a free basket of breadsticks, however, and boom, suddenly they're much happier to wait. And if you happen to be a cynic, then you might be inclined to believe there's one more reason restaurants hand out free food, namely, it increases sales. The saltiness of the chips and salsa they hand out at Mexican restaurants, for example, make customers an easy mark for additional beverages, especially expensive ones like margaritas and pina coladas. And legend has it that while some white breads, like the kind found in free rolls and breadsticks, can make your blood sugar spike after you've digested it, that in turn can ultimately make you hungrier than you would have been if you skipped it. In other words, if you eat the free bread before the meal, you might wind up more inclined to order a dessert after the meal. There's not really much in the way of science to support this idea, but the theory is widespread enough that it could have inspired some restaurant owners into cranking out some gratis dinner rolls. Whatever the case, free starters are still a big part of the restaurant business. They may not get the recognition of Cheddar Bay Biscuits, but other popular food warm-ups include Olive Garden's famous breadsticks, the free rolls at Texas Roadhouse, and the salsa bar at Moe's Southwest Grill. You know that thanks to changing tastes in restaurants, the fallout from the COVID pandemic, and an ill-advised all-you-can-eat snow crab legs deal, the franchise hasn't exactly had the easiest time lately. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in May of 2024 and was forced to close down hundreds of locations. It emerged from bankruptcy the following September, but the chain is much smaller than it once was. Nonetheless, people are still gaga for Cheddar Bay Biscuits, and Red Lobster is still milking them for all they're worth. In 2019, the company released a home mix for gluten-free Cheddar Bay Biscuits, which weren't even available in the restaurants at the time. Then in 2021, they gave consumers their chance to make the original biscuits at home when they introduced their ready-to-bake Cheddar Bay Biscuits. The line also included honey butter biscuits and rosemary garlic parmesan biscuits. And while they were all originally exclusive to Walmart, they're now widely available at other retailers as well. And in 2022, Red Lobster expanded their menu to include Cheddar Bay shrimp, which, true to its name, is fried shrimp breaded and seasoned with the same ingredients.
Cheddar Bay shrimp. Okay, that sounds delicious. I love prawns. Got to eat prawns. Damn. Okay.
That are in the biscuits. The biscuits themselves remain the company's most popular item. But according to Red Lobster's chief marketing officer, the shrimp quickly became their number 2. This menu experimentation and the need to generate revenue led Red Lobster to launch their first ever line of frozen entrees soon thereafter, in 2023. Among the offerings were wild-caught cod, breaded with Cheddar Bay biscuit seasoning, and the same Cheddar Bay biscuit shrimp that's become so popular at the restaurants. In 2024, Red Lobster shook the world by announcing it would be changing the Cheddar Bay biscuits into Cheddar Bay breadsticks. It felt like the chain was looking to rival Olive Garden's famous breadsticks, but it all turned out to be an April Fool's Day promotion. They really did make Cheddar Bay breadsticks, but they were only available for a single day at the Red Lobster in New York's Times Square. Long story short, Red Lobster's Cheddar Bay biscuits seem to be more consistently popular than Red Lobster itself. They're so good, it would not be shocking if someday the company decides to drop the lobster shtick entirely and rename itself Cheddar Bay Bakery. Until then, may it be nothing but fair winds and following biscuit mix for the sailors of Cheddar Bay. So what do you think? Are you a fan of Red Lobster's Cheddar Bay Biscuits?
Yes.
Or are they overrated? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other weird history food videos.
I think, I just made it from the box. Obviously, we don't have Red Lobster here. It's the closest we're ever going to get. Made it from the box, made a video of it, tasted it. It was delicious. I've made biscuits before. I've got a video on that as well, biscuits and gravy. But the Cheddar Bay Biscuits, it just adds that, obviously it's got the garlic and the cheese, and it just adds that little punch that, something needs. And obviously that flavor is very popular, obviously now, the shrimp and the everything else covered in it as well too. So it's funny how something like that starts off without a bang, without any, pomp or whatever, just kind of put on the menu item, it's just there. Originally it wasn't even on the menu, it's just something to kind of distract you while you're waiting for a table. But people know good taste, and if they like something, they're going to come back for it. And I think when anybody speaks about Red Lobster that I've heard, they always mention Cheddar Bay Biscuits. That's what they always talk about, so, and I'm not surprised because they're absolutely bloody delicious. So I wish we had a Red Lobster here. I love seafood. I would eat there. But to have those Cheddar Bay Biscuits, to have them fresh out the oven as well, just delicious. Just delicious. So that was very interesting. Very interesting. Man, I almost fell for it that Cheddar Bay was the guy that actually invented it, but I could see why. Obviously, they're using cheddar, so they want it to sound more, something that's come from the sea. So Cheddar Bay sounds like an actual place, So, but very good marketing, I must say. So let me know what you thought of that. Thank you very much for joining me today. Make sure you stay safe. I'll definitely see you in the next reaction video. Oh, you're still here? You want more content? Why don't you check out my Patreon down here? You'll get plenty more content and some exclusive videos over there too. If not, why not check out this one over here?